GirlBoss Show, the show where we talk business, life, and everything beyond. And I'm so excited that we've got such an awesome crew of amazing women here on the show today. And I'd like to start off by introducing our very special guest, Verity Johnson.
Oh, hey guys. Hey team. Kia ora everyone. Thank you for having me here today.
It is awesome to have you here today. And Verity, she is pretty amazing and a total girl boss in her own right. So she is a columnist, a journalist, and TV presenter. You may have seen her write for places like College Humour, Stuff NZ, The Dominion Post, Christchurch Press, and she's also a youth ambassador at one of my favourite youth organisations, YWCA Auckland.
Hola.
And you may have spotted her on TV on places like The AM Show and on radio at RNZ. So she's all over the show.
That's
you
fantastic.
Can't get enough of her, so it's awesome. And we've also got the amazing Em here, who is 15 years old and an aspiring engineer and graduate of the GirlBoss Advantage program. So we're so stoked, Em, to have you here.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Very, very excited.
And it's so awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by sharing our boss moment. So who wants to kick us off? Verity, do you have a boss moment you want to share with us?
I mean, I thought about this when you asked me about them, and I've had a few questionable moments when I've made very brave but slightly crazy decisions. And I thought that it would be very fitting, given that I was slightly late for today, to tell you one of the stories of the first time I went on air. I was going on News Talk ZB, I think it was, and I tried to take a bus because I was trying to be environmentally responsible, and I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I don't know, honestly. It was my first ever interview, and I was 45 minutes behind schedule, and it was literally 2 minutes to go, and they were like, "Where are you?" So I took off my stilettos and I ran, and I stood on a piece of broken glass when I was running up the pavement. At that moment, which was my boss moment, I committed, and I was like, "I'm just going to run with a piece of broken glass in my foot to the interview," got over the line exactly as we went on air, and proceeded to bleed over the carpet as I did my first ever live interview.
That is amazing. I love that.
They didn't get me back though, so I don't entirely know if that was a successful moment.
Their loss.
Yeah. But I do remember that moment being like, I have committed in every possible way.
I love that. That
this.
is amazing. That is such a good story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky I didn't get tetanus, but you know,
Yes.
the point
You got to do what you got to do,
Yeah.
right?
It was so inspiring. You
Yeah.
fully went for it, fully
Yeah.
committed.
I did commit, and I still have a scar. So
to
Yeah.
prove it. I
Yeah.
love it. Em, what is your boss moment?
Mine's not quite as dramatic as that, but I'm very scared talking to adults. So this is a very scary moment right now. And networking and shaking their hand is very, very scary. But at the GirlBoss internship program, which is such an amazing program where girls who are interested in science, technology, engineering are able to go and gain skills which can help them in the real world and help them with their career journeys, I met Claire Carroll, who is the chief of people at Fletcher Buildings, and I shook her hand and I had the most amazing conversation with her. She gave me lots of advice.
Oh, yes.
And it was a real milestone. I'm so happy I got up the courage to talk to her.
I love that. That is
Yeah.
such a good story. You never regret like taking those risks. So that's
I
awesome.
regret doing it once. I I met Tamara Morrison for the first time, and I got so excited that when I leant in, I was going to give him a kiss on the cheek, and I spat on him.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad. Don't do that, guys.
But did you follow up? Did you acknowledge it? Like, what do you do in that situation? Do you acknowledge? You wipe the cheek? Do you just go home? Like,
I think I just went really red and just was like, and then just left.
You're just
like a total pro. Yeah. I don't advise that. If
No,
you're going to network,
spitting.
make sure you're not like collecting a lot of saliva. Yeah.
just like spit in a plant beforehand. Yeah.
Spit in a nearby pot plant, then go and network.
That's always good. I love
Tips.
that. Brilliant. Okay, team, what we really want to do with today's episode is we really want our amazing sort of older guest today to be giving advice to our younger future leader right here. So, Em, do you have any questions? And so you can receive some mentoring live on air from Verity.
Yes, I have some questions.
It would be awkward if you were like, actually, no, there's nothing I've got to
Sorry, I
ask you.
didn't prepare anything.
Yeah. You're not that interesting.
Okay, so when you're a teenager, I feel like it is so hard to get immersed in the workforce and really gain experience. And because with all the, like, your advice, you're like, if you want a job, like, a number one thing is experience. It's so important. So how would you recommend, like, getting experience with things you're passionate about?
That's a good question. You mean if you have no, like, if you're coming from stone cold and you've got no intro?
Fully stone cold.
That's excellent. I mean, I think the beautiful thing about New Zealand and a lot of people in New Zealand is that they're actually really open to helping people, especially young, talented, motivated people like you who are like, I want to do things. I mean, Kiwis love that. So the way I did it was I borrowed a trick out of my dad's book, and I asked Dad what he does when he wants to meet people, and he's like, it's very simple. You find who you want to meet, you read all about them, you see why you love them, and then you straight up email them and be really honest and say, I'm a 15-year-old who's really passionate about engineering. I really love what you do. Can I come and talk to you and ask you a few questions about it? And most people will say yes. And you get that initial conversation, you go and meet them, and if they like you, they're normally like, well, you know, can I do anything for you? And then you're like, well, yes, I'd actually would like to help out, and just be prepared to step up and be like, look, I don't have any experience, but I really want to contribute in this really small way to what you're doing. Are you keen? And most people will say yes. If you have the balls to go and do that, most people will be like, yep, I like that. That
is great. Just got to fully make the move, send the email, make the meeting.
And I think people will find it really refreshing, because that's quite a rare skill even among like adults. So if it's like a 15-year-old doing that, they would be even more blown away that you have that level of self-assurance and confidence, and they would be like, this chick is worth watching. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. My next question, it also relates to age. So I did a little stalk. I looked at your website, and you said you started writing for the New Zealand Herald when you were 16.
I did, yes.
I think is crazy amazing. Like, that is so cool. So I'm wondering.
It's kind of terrifying at the same time. It's like, did you not have anyone better to talk to? No.
When you
sorry.
were young, how do you get taken seriously? Like, how did you actually get your work published and do all of that?
I think a big part about being taken seriously is being authentic and not pretending to talk about things that you don't understand. So when I was 16, I wasn't writing about education policy in New Zealand or, what I think about ihumatua. I was writing about things that actually affected 16-year-olds. I was writing about like sex education in schools. I was writing about, my first ever article was about the giving out free condoms in schools. That was my first thing I ever wrote for the New Zealand Herald. Yeah. I never thought I'd be talking about condoms on a business podcast, but here we are. Anyway, so that was about talking about issues which I actually had like a voice in and something which applied to me. So people didn't look at me and think, what is she talking about, and not take me seriously. They looked at me and thought, oh, that's someone talking about something that they understand, they have a perspective, and they get it from the inside. So I think when you're younger, it's really important to talk about things that people can see you understand on a really deep level, because you're living that life. And I think if you layer over your lens as a Gen Z, as a 16-year-old, 15-year-old who's really passionate, people are really interested in talking about a topical issue, but they want a younger opinion on it, because you guys are hot property right now. So if you put that Gen Z lens on something which people are already talking about, suddenly people start taking you far more seriously, because you're taking something people are already invested in, and then you're just adding this really unique perspective. And you should never forget how unique your perspective is, because you can guarantee there's no one out there at your age doing that.
Absolutely. I actually couldn't agree with that advice more. And I know often people ask me, have you faced any sort of being so young, being only 20 and doing what you're doing, have you faced any sort of age discrimination? I think as long as you're just keeping really clear and you have a deep understanding of what value you can bring.
Yeah.
And often the value that I can bring is that, well, I have a deep knowledge of, what young people and particularly young women are thinking today. And if you really bring that to the forefront, and then you can actually kind of navigate those conversations quite well. And, sometimes I'm talking to older people and they might say a little comment like, you're so young, what do you know? And just feel free to kind of even use what you've got. I just drop a just little meme, maybe, just like even the word TikTok, that's enough just to terrify.
Yeah.
Just to terrify.
You can really rock them up with that, eh? Just drop the words in. You don't need to actually understand them. Like, I don't use TikTok, but I say it a lot because I'm like, oh yeah, my TikTok account. And all the adults are like, what?
What is that?
Yeah.
That's good. I definitely have probably too much knowledge regarding TikToks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's valuable, right? Everyone's wondering. I even go to corporate businesses and they're like, so we're thinking about this whole TikTok thing. Can you provide some insight? And my insight's basically just when I turn up at GirlBoss workshops and they're like, get into my TikTok video.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that's
okay.
my expertise. Yeah. Like my friends have it, so yep. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay, so this is, I think it might be a slightly weird question, but we always
We
talk
love weird
about
questions.
technology and artificial intelligence and how that's kind of going to change fields like engineering and business. But I'm wondering with like journalism and entertainment, how do you think artificial intelligence will affect that area?
Well, I think what you see with the rise of AI is that computers can do some things, a lot of things, really well, but they cannot make people laugh, they cannot make people feel anything, and they cannot get humanity, right? So when it comes to what I do, which is fundamentally taking complicated, difficult things and making humans understand them in a funny, humane, empathetic, warm way, I think there's going to be an even greater focus on being able to do that in the future because AI is going to conquer like accounting and, other boring things that I can't do. I'm just taking the piss. But it's going to
We love accountants.
Yeah, we love accountants. You're currently doing my tax return, so we love accountants. But they're going to conquer a lot of those skills. And I think people will be increasingly in demand for skills that computers can't do, that rely on things like emotional intelligence and humour or complexity of issues. And so I think it's actually more of a demand for those skills going forward. Well, I hope so, because otherwise I'm going to be completely unemployed.
So AI will just give you more jobs.
Yes.
It's all looking good.
Fingers crossed. It's kind of, unless it becomes like Terminator and then we all get killed. So aside from that eventual possibility, hopefully I'm going to have a job. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
That's the dream.
Fantastic. Team, so what I really want to touch on is around what exciting stuff YWCA are getting up to, and really from the perspective of YWCA providing a community.
Yeah.
And I know for you, Em, as a young woman interested in STEM and navigating it, do you always feel like you've got a community, and what do you think the importance of community means to you?
I think when I first kind of found out that I loved math and I loved engineering, I was like, oh, I'm a nerd. This sucks. I said, this isn't ideal because you just want to fit in with everyone else. It was kind of around middle school. And I was like, I don't want to alienate myself. So I kind of ignored it and almost refused to build a community. But when I came into high school, I was like, it's getting really lame. Like, I just have to accept who I am and what I love. And I started making friends with the same interests. And it's been so important because they're so inspiring. They're so amazing. And it kind of it keeps your passion growing, talking to people who are interested in the same things as you. So I think it's so important to find your people.
It's really funny as well because I remember definitely going through a phase where I rejected all of that. Because I'm quite good at maths and I've always loved it, but I never really ever talk about that. But I get a real secret pleasure from doing lots of complicated sums in my head. I can't even describe it. I find it really satisfying. But I remember being really embarrassed about that and being embarrassed that I liked that stuff and trying to fit in and be funny and, just be liked. And then I realized that the more that I tried to be liked, the more miserable it made me because I just, hung out with people who I didn't like and didn't want to be around. But I was like, well, you're popular. Please like me. But yeah, when I found people who care about what I care about, suddenly I didn't feel awkward or the odd one out anymore. I was like, oh, people out here care about what I care about. And then you bring together communities, people who actually want to support each other and get on with things. And it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was a huge reason why I started GirlBoss New Zealand was to create a community for amazing young women like you, because I feel like that is such a universal feeling, particularly through high school, that we feel like the odd one out. We feel like we can't, we aren't in spaces there where people share our passions. So I think, it's really awesome to see, you know, that you found your community. And
Yeah.
I'm also really excited to hear more about the Y25 program,
Yeah.
which is a year-long leadership program for young women. So hopefully there's a really great opportunity there to
Yeah.
find community.
I'm super excited about it. So the YWCA Auckland, who I'm their youth ambassador,
Yes.
we are currently running a program like nationwide. I'm going to pitch it to you. Like, looking at you, Em. It's a nationwide program where basically we want people to nominate young women who are just kicking ass in life. And that goes across communities, right? So that whether that's maths and STEM or whether that's performing or whether that's like you're saving the trees every weekend, whatever it is that you're doing, we want you to get in there and get nominated. And we're going to do this Y25 list of 25 young women who are basically these trailblazing superstars.
Cool.
And then those 25 women get a year-long, like you were saying, development program where we build a community and we network them with other young women who really care about excellence and striving and passion, but also with industry leaders who can mentor them and support them and basically give them a chance to get their grand idea and their passion off the ground. And the applications close in a month, and it's free to enter, and it's all of New Zealand.
So that sounds amazing.
I
I'm
know.
in.
She's
That sounds so
One
cool.
sign up.
Put your name on it. 15 to 25. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Super, super cool. And yeah, you just make the age cut off there, so that's very
Yeah.
good to hear.
So I expect to see at www.y25.co.nz an application under M tomorrow morning.
Get ready. Oh, not tomorrow morning.
You're like, girl, seriously.
I've got a month.
That's
Yeah.
Netflix to watch tonight. But
I've got a month. Whatever.
I love that. But I also really love that idea of young women coming together and finding community, because I often feel we're really in a time where we sort of can feel like we can compete with each other, particularly like high-performing young women, and we often compare ourselves to other people on their journey. Does anyone else have experience where they feel like they compare themselves to others or feel like they have to compete with others?
Oh my God, yes. Are you kidding? It's like the human condition. Wait, no, I'm going to go on a rant about this. Would you like to go first?
yes, I think at school, a lot of my friends who are super high performers and are so amazing, instead of kind of banding together and just being like, we all are great, this is awesome, it ends up being like, what grade did you get?
Yeah.
What grade are you doing in music? And it ends up becoming such a... You kind of have to step back, because I feel like you can't even improve to your full potential if the whole time you're comparing yourself to someone else who has completely different passions and experiences. Like, and it gets so hard because everyone's talking and everyone's comparing, just to take that step back and be like, whoa, like I just need to focus on myself.
Yeah, and I think that we always underestimate our capacity to be irrational and insecure about things, right? So, like, however talented and successful you are, you still wake up every day thinking, everyone else is doing better than me. Why am I not good enough? Why is she so much better than I am? And I think that part of that is because girls inherently are normally sort of pitted against each other just as a product of #patriarchy. But also there's this thing where at some point we've been told that there's only space for a certain amount of talented women, and you, only 10, really, only 10 get through. And so you feel as though if you're like if you've got competition, that means that you're not going to get a space, and that means that you're not one of the 10, and then you turn on each other. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned over being the period of like your age to my age, which is 10 years, I'm really sad to say, is I had this point around 21, 22 where I was obsessing over what everyone else was doing better than me. And I realized that I was becoming quite a negative and a jealous person because of that, because it threatened my own sense of insecurity that I wasn't doing well enough. And instead of looking at other women as being threats, I started being like, okay, if this woman threatens me, that must mean she's doing something that I want to do really well. Therefore, I should celebrate her, because actually, if we celebrate each other, we bring each other up collectively. And she is probably thinking the exact same thing about me. So that shift from being like, I am far more irrational and far more insecure than I realized I was, acknowledging that I'm irrational and insecure, and then being like, I'm going to work on that, was the biggest thing that I learned about dealing with that.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. And I think what's so important is you've got to make that conscious choice.
Absolutely.
Because we're absorbing all these messages which are saying, oh, we've already got a female comedian. Like, we don't need
you.
We've got one. Like, we need another one.
Got a feminist.
You know, and just I think that's so important to continue champion. And sometimes, you know, you may get this kind of like sense of, you know, dread, like, am I enough? But actually you've got to say, hold on.
Yeah.
There's space for all of us here to be successful. But I think it needs to be that deliberate choice. I think it needs to be a conscious choice.
I think the thing about only like 10 top women going through is something like I've resonated with so much. Like I feel like we're always told, like with boys, it'll be like, you can all become engineers, you can all become top business people. But with girls, it's like, you have to be the top of the top.
Yeah.
If you even want to
you have to
succeed.
be pretty, and you have to be nice, and you have to be well-rounded, and you have to have a dog and have a fitness brand, and you can be an engineer.
Yeah, you've got to do it all, and you've got to do it twice as good as a guy to get half the credit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so annoying.
And I think even from an age perspective as well, like often people say to me, you know, you're 20, you've already achieved this, you know, what have I done, you know, potentially older people. And I think often we've got to, and you've done a lot of work on this around stopping linking age with relevance and stop putting ourselves on other people's timelines. And, you know, even though, you know, I run GirlBoss and I'm only 20, at the same time, I can walk into other rooms and there's someone who's 14 that's running their own company, or they're Forbes 30 under 30 while they're still in their teens. And so you've just got to really make sure that you're not putting yourself on other people's timelines. But it's got to be conscious. Has anyone else had experiences where they've felt like they're behind others or that they're not moving as fast as they'd like?
I've felt like that for the last 10 years. Like, seriously. But it's probably only in the last year when I genuinely worked out what I actually care about and what I care about succeeding in, that it made me feel less like I was falling behind. Because I did this thing, I don't know if you guys do it, but because I was so concerned with like success and being successful and looking successful, anyone who was overtly successful, even if they had nothing to do with what I did, let's say they were a champion architect, I would still be like, oh my God, they're more successful than I am. They're doing all these things. They've built a house in LA. Look at it. It's in magazines. And I have no interest in architecture at all. I hate architecture, actually, passionately. And yet, because I didn't know what my version of success was, and I didn't know what mattered to me, everything threatened me. But when I worked out what I actually cared about succeeding in, that was when I had a much more focused and calm idea. I didn't feel like I was falling behind as much because I worked out that a lot of these people who I thought were like more successful were doing things that I don't care about. Like, I don't really care if you work at an investment bank. It doesn't impress me. I'm not interested. But if you've just written your own screenplay, I'm like, oh my God, you know? But it's all about defining your own version of success.
With your values, because you've got the values you just talked about, how do you make sure, like with your work, you stay true to yourself and those values are really what you're putting out in the world?
By recognizing that sometimes you fail in those values, and when you fail, you own it. Like, I want to be someone who is compassionate and understanding, and I want to raise other people up, and I want to support other women. And yet sometimes I have been wildly jealous of Lord for about 10 years and have just trashed her at every opportunity, which is very not what my values are about. And I did it because I was jealous, because she was successful. And like I said, she was this shining beacon of hope. And I realized that I was violating my own values because I was letting my insecurity threaten them. So what I started doing was like consciously admitting to when I was letting myself and letting my values down. And by consciously admitting I'm not perfect, I believe in things but I fail at them, that actually helped me fight for them more, because I became conscious when I wasn't fighting for them. That's
that's
really meta.
So good.
I love that. That is like epic. Like, just like a second to let that sink in. That is just such and I've never really thought about it like that. But I think sometimes the best way to find out about our values is actually find out when we're actually like, this feels wrong, or this is not me, and actually this angers me.
Yeah.
And it actually can sometimes be an easier way to actually figure out, hey, what is it that I really value?
Yeah, totally. And like, when you get mad about something or you get disappointed in something that you've done, it makes you realize what you actually care about. And that's, like you were saying, a really good tool for like self-reflection. And you're like, man, I'm being an awful human right now. This violates something which I really care about. Yeah, never underestimate the capacity for self-loathing to teach you stuff.
I love that. That is so brilliant. That is so brilliant. And I think that really I'm just like loving that right now. So just even when we do feel that need to compare and compete, understanding our values, understanding what gets us worked up, why, and actually going and leaving, why do I feel like I'm competing with her? What is it about that? That is amazing.
And I think you often find when you're competing with someone and you think about why you're competing with them, it's often not why you're competing with them. Like, I competed with Lord, which is ridiculous because Lord's a superstar, doesn't know I exist, and she's a singer and I don't sing. But then I looked at why
you do rap though.
Yeah, I do. in another life. But I was looking at her and comparing myself to her, and I was like really, triggered by her. And then I realized that I'm not comparing myself to her because I want to be her, but because she has got something more sophisticated than that, and that she's nailed a creative vision and has stuck to it.
Wow.
And that's what I'm, really envious of.
Yeah, and what you're sensing is a gap within yourself, is that you don't have that clarity of your vision.
Exactly, yes, because when you know what you want is clarity of vision, you look and you're like, shit, I don't have clarity of vision. Oh, I shouldn't say shit. Oh, well.
I think it's a reason it can be so hard with teens and competing with each other, because I know obviously gender equality and I want everyone to be represented, but being a teenager, I don't really know my values. I don't fully know who I am and what I stand for. So it's kind of hard to if you're comparing yourself to someone, to be like, no, this is what I stand for. I don't need to do this, because you're so unclear of who you are.
That's why you need to test that stuff. You need to put yourself in situations which are difficult or challenging, or make you think, do I agree with this? I don't know. Because that's the only way you actually ever feel like this is real, this means something to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think often, when we're trying to have that self-reflection, we think, we need to go into a room and sit there with a book and think for a long time, and that can definitely work for some people. But then for other people, and I know for myself, actually just putting myself in challenging situations, or when I feel extreme emotion, actually checking in with myself in that moment. And saying, why do I feel this way? And that can actually help build your clarity more.
Absolutely.
But actually just increasing your experiences. You went along to the GirlBoss Advantage program for 5 days, and, that would have given you some more clarity of your values potentially.
It was so cool. The more, this is terrifying me right now, but doing it, I'm like, this is actually so cool. I love connecting with other women who are also passionate. And even though that's terrifying, this is something I really value. I really value having a network and having communication.
Yeah, I love it.
Grow from that. And from that kick. When you do something and you're scared of it, and it gives you that shot of adrenaline, and you're like, that feeling is what propels you onto even greater heights.
Absolutely.
So that's how you test your values, basically.
Awesome. I love that, team.
Great.
Now, I'm going to have a little diversion. I really want to talk about an amazing article that you did a few months ago now around wellness culture. I just loved this article. It was brilliant. I loved it. I sent it to all my friends. I'm like, yes, wellness culture. Because I've been hating on the diet industry for a long time now. So I'm like, yay, another way to put my feminist rage, another industry.
Another channel for feminist rage.
Yes, exactly. So just a little bit of overview around the wellness industry. So it's now worth more than 4.2 trillion worldwide. And I suppose on the surface, it's a rather positive industry around being well and having wellness. But it's definitely got kind of a more toxic side. And I really want your thoughts on what that toxic side looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I think fundamentally the wellness industry is two things that are very dangerous. Number one, it tells you that you can fix all of your problems by doing a really good face mask. And as lovely as it would be to be able to exfoliate problems away, your problems are probably normally coming from a much deeper sense of internal turmoil, and it's probably nothing to do with your skincare regime. So what I don't like is that they capitalize on human misery, and they think, oh, well, you're miserable. Let's make some money out of that and sell you a face mask to fix that. Whereas that face mask might make you feel good for putting it on, but I mean, it's not going to actually fix long term. But the thing for me is that you get caught in this kind of cycle where you have to be increasingly optimizing your own body. You have to be I have to be the prettiest, I have to be the thinnest, I have to be the healthiest version of me, and that is exhausting. That is a really depleting process that makes you trapped in this constant circle of I have to be better, I have to be better, I have to be better. It's just the diet industry, but they've rephrased it as the health industry. So it's now you have to be the healthiest version of you.
Sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yeah, and it's never ending because you can always be healthier, right? You can always go for more walks, you can always go to the gym more, you can buy more activewear. It's this constant cycle, and I find it depressing, exhausting, and soul destroying.
and what I really find about the wellness industry particularly is often for me, it's just an extra stress.
Yes.
So you're busy with work, and then you're doing this and you're doing that and you're catching up with friends, and then it's oh, I have not done my 1 hour of meditation. I didn't get up at 5 a.m. to do yoga.
I haven't drank my celery juice today. My insides are obviously falling apart.
Exactly. It's just another thing to beat yourself up about.
Yeah, it's another stick to beat on your own back. And that defeats the entire purpose of doing that meditation because you're stressing about the need to do the meditation. So you do the meditation the whole time. You're I need to do other things. I haven't done this. Oh my God. It just is a huge, huge self-defeating circle.
Exactly. And to quote you on your article, because I love this line and I shared it around, so I'm going to share it again. The problem is that when you're already a burnt out wreck, wellness becomes another stick to beat yourself with. Today's mantra for good living sounds like it was written on a USSR factory poster. This is you. Utilize every second of your time to maximize your output in all corners of your life. And I just really think that basically sums it up. And I just think,
I'll take that.
Yeah, thank you. That was I was like, that is awesome. And I think often we've got to just really deeply understand what is it that's stressing us out, and can it be solved with a face mask? Probably not.
No, not on a long-term level.
Not on a long-term level. And I think sometimes these can just be sort of a cover-up for what really we're not feeling like we're on our track to reach our purpose or our why, and we're not really feeling fulfilled.
Because eating well and, drinking water, making sure your body's good is, like, super important. But then it goes so extreme because it's not like, eat everything in moderation. It's like, have your turmeric juice in the morning and then do that. And it's
Weigh
not like
your food. 6
shower and
almonds
be
a day.
good.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have to do this face mask from this company, and then there's, like, the rose quartz thing, and then there's the diet lollipops. And it gets... Like, it takes something which is really good and important, but it completely, like, capitalizes on it and turns it into such an evil thing.
And I love, has anyone seen what Jamila Jamil has been doing in this space?
Like the body
she's so
neutrality.
cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
so particularly around Instagram and changing the rules there. So if you're not aware, Jamila Jamil, Good Place actress, incredible woman, former model.
She's so cool.
Love her so
feminist,
much.
amazing. And she started a petition to actually ban all dieting promo posts on
Really?
Instagram.
Oh
so
my
like,
God.
do you ever remember you saw like the Fitspo teas and all that?
Yeah.
Celebrities, you drinking all these teas, that's banned now. And so you can you don't see them anymore.
No
and that's
way.
because she literally did that campaign, and now you can report any of those things and Instagram will take them down. And I just think that's such an amazing shift. And it was so amazing because for example, the Kardashians always share different diets and teas. And then Khloe Kardashian, even though after the rule was changed, she still posted a picture of her with these pills. And all the comments were just like, you can't post this. And they were like all very negative. Like, why would you do this when you've got a young daughter, etc. And I just thought, wow, isn't that just amazing that one person can start that petition and now we've got a complete culture shift. Because just a year ago, Kardashians would post those every day and you wouldn't think anything about it.
Those teas were such a big thing. I remember, like, girls, this is like year 11, so 14-year-olds were, like, trying to order those teas, and they'd be drinking them
They're
at school.
laxatives.
Like, diet culture is so big in middle school, which is, like, 11 and 12s.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with that.
That's
like, with our
terrifying.
GirlBoss members, like, I'd have conversations with them and they're talking about, like, how diet culture at intermediate is completely ingrained, pushed through Instagram with no regulations, and a lot of these products are complete laxatives in a bottle.
I have friends or sisters in primary school who won't eat nuts because she thinks it's too fattening, and she's about 8 years old.
Yeah, there's some really big challenges.
It's totally
that we're facing.
heartbreaking.
It's
oh my
really
God.
scary.
I wish I had more positive news, but it gets worse as you get older. Like, it just intensifies. People, like, diet culture does not go away. You start, like, assuming that to be a successful woman, you have to have, like, a strong diet culture, wellness culture. You have to be your own, like, employee. Like, everything, it becomes more.
You don't just have to be smart
No.
and motivated, but you've got to look good too,
Yeah.
which I think is the real double standard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, being someone in the media industry as well, have you had any, how is that? Is that different? Is there that increased pressure? Have you felt that? How have you navigated that? Do you think in New Zealand there is an issue in the media industry?
Absolutely. In that, I think women in general are held to a higher standard of scrutiny. But I think that as soon as you start going on TV or social media or Instagram and all of that stuff, it's not the industry itself. What it is the feedback from viewers. Like, so when I was on the Paul Henry show, like, I think there was a ratio of like 5-1 commentary from viewers, and the 5 would be comments on the female presenter's appearance and what we were wearing, or whether we were fat, thin, whatever, and then every one comment would be about the guy and what the guy was saying, not what the guy was wearing.
Wow.
So all of the commentary would be about how we needed to lose weight, or how our makeup was bad, or how we needed to wear different outfits or whatever, and it was this constant stream of criticism from people who were watching you regulating your appearance. And it was it's soul destroying. Like it's massively difficult to cope with. And I don't think that I've probably resolved that. I think I've probably hated the way that I look for a long time now, and I don't really know how to fix it. I mean, if you guys have got tips, I am willing to learn. You both seem very woke and like very young and like into this, so teach me your ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, we held women to ridiculously high standards, and we internalized them, and then we can't get rid of them.
And on that, you know, and you know, it's really heartbreaking to even hear that, because, you know, you're someone that I admire so much, and it's really awful to think that that pressure can even amount to people that are on the top of their game like you are. And I think, you know, I just recall in Australia, there was, I don't know if you saw that, but the male co-host of
Carl Stefanovic, wore the same jacket all year. No one noticed.
Yeah, so in protest of his of the constant comments that his female co-host used to get about her outfits, he decided for 1 year he'd wear the exact same outfit, and he got zero comments about the fact that he wore the exact same outfit.
Realised,
which just basically just symbolises just how women just have those extra pressures.
And we do it to ourselves, and that's the scary part, because the commentary that we get is from like our friends or like our mum's friends or random people who have an opinion. Like when you're on the show and, you know, you get Tina from Timaru who texts in to tell you that your dress is too low cut and you're wearing like a high neck. Everyone's got an opinion. So we are actually creating our own worst nightmare ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, even Hillary Clinton on her campaign, she decided that she was only going to wear basically suit pant outfit just in different colours, because she was just like, just don't want people to keep commenting on what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
So I'm literally wearing the same outfit in different colours every single time.
Because you don't want to have to like deal with the constant commentary. Oh, I like that. I didn't like that. She looks like a man. Yeah, like all that stuff. It's my only advice with that would be work out what you want your body to do for you. If you want your body to be healthy, if you want to run marathons, or you want to dance, or you want to feel strong, work out what it is and focus on that, and try and not get distracted from your goal for your sort of physical presence. Don't get hung up on being, I have to be size 8. Think about what you actually want most from your body. Like when I realized that what I want most from me is to be like flexible and to be able to do yoga and Pilates and stuff, then I felt a lot better about being size 14. I'm size 14. And I felt for a really long time that I should lose weight. But then I was like, I should just get better at the things I actually want to be good at and focus on that. And that stopped me obsessing about losing weight.
Exactly. So like really connecting in with your body on and how it
purpose.
actually serves you and then its purpose and all that. Yeah. It's beautiful.
That's the only thing I found that works.
It's
Don't hurt laxative teas.
But but you know, it's a constant challenge. But you know, we just got to support each other. And I think if we just have that community and we just continually just go on a brigade just to push our own support and love of women, and then we can hopefully try and shift that narrative. And talking about the F word, feminism, which is my favourite F word in the whole entire world.
Yeah, girl.
I'm really passionate about the idea that we should all be feminists, and particularly engaging men into the conversation. I know, Verity, you've spoken a lot around this, and you even spoke about an incident you had with your dad in your article.
Dad.
Around your article around male feminists. Do you want to share with us that incident you had with your dad?
I think he was just, he was going on a rant about like, what was he going on about? It was either, was this the one where he went on a rant about feminists and why he didn't like them? And then I was like, but Daddy, you're a feminist.
Yes.
Was it that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So he thought that he was just like, oh, feminism is too extreme, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be like that, Verity. Don't be a feminist or whatever. He means it in a good way. Because in his mind, feminism is like in the 60s when they were burning bras and wiping menstrual blood on walls and that kind of thing. That's what he's thinking of when he thinks feminist. But I pointed out to Dad that like what he believes in, which is basically that everyone's equal, it's about supporting women and like they can have as many opportunities as men can, and you should just empower everyone to be fantastic at what they're doing. He believes in those same values, which is what feminism fundamentally believes in, the equality between men and women. And then I was like, Dad, you're a feminist. You just don't want to admit it. And the thing is I don't actually mind that he says that he's not, because he actually in his heart believes in what the values are. And for me, it's good enough that he enacts those values. He doesn't have to say that he is. I mean, I want him to. He doesn't have to.
It's a stretch goal.
Yeah. It's your KPI for next year. Yeah.
And I think it's such an interesting one. I think more and more men are stepping up and using the word feminism. And I think we are slowly changing that narrative. And I think more and more kind of like pop culture, we saw, you know, Beyonce and a lot of celebrities coming out and saying, yeah, I'm a feminist and this is what it means to me in 2020. And what does it mean? What does it mean to you to be a feminist in 2020?
I think for me, feminism is about recognizing that society puts really twisted, messed up ideas of gender onto men and women, and that we need to fight those gendered expectations if we want to have a more equal future.
And what about you? What does feminism mean to you?
Gender equality, like, period. You know, there's stuff for men and there's stuff for women. Probably a bit more stuff for women. Like, it's like having the pay gap, but then also if like a woman just had a child, I think a male should be able to stay at home. Yeah. So it's about sorting out issues for both sides and being able to meet in the middle.
And I think there's there's also a conversation, obviously feminism is around advancing women, but it's also around when we reach gender equality, we see that men actually reap a lot of those benefits as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, male suicide in New Zealand is 3 times higher than for females. And, you know, if you're mad and upset about that, then you're having a feminist moment, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
If you're, you know, upset around things like that a man that might stay at home might experience more stigma, then that's a feminist moment. So I think really sometimes just having it in that broader conversation can get some little bit more reluctant parties to really see the value in feminism.
I think a lot of people have been lied to about what feminism actually is. The internet is really bad at distorting what feminism is. And they'll show you these memes of like, oh, you're a man-hating lesbian, that's what feminism is. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
What? Feminism is just about understanding that we have a lot of problems to work through as men and as women, and if you are a guy and you want to take parental leave, that is a feminist issue. If you are a woman and you want to be a career woman and you feel judged for that, that is a feminist issue too. So it's not just we only care about women and we don't care about men. At the same time, there probably are slightly more issues that women have. But you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
And
I really believe, you know, some people say, well, why do we need to use the word feminism? But I just think there's so much power in that word. And I get every day I feel continually inspired by the feminist movement. And I even reflect, you know, like I saw this amazing thing on Twitter the other day, which was like, if you're doing something that they would have like burnt you in the 1800s for being a witch, then that means you're doing something right. Yeah. And I just love that, you know, like, you know, there's so many feminists that come before us who could have never imagined that we'll be sitting here in a room having these conversations so openly. And I just think there's something so beautiful about actually being part of that wider movement, which has been going for hundreds of years.
I think guys are just scared of the word feminist because like I honestly know so many males who just, it's not even that they don't believe in gender equality, but they're like, oh, I'm not a feminist.
Yeah, that's it. It's got such a cringe factor to it.
Yeah.
And then that's why you need male role models like Obama, who was like, of course I'm a feminist. Like,
yeah, Justin Trudeau as well. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Good job, team. So I really want to talk about achievement addiction. Because I know, Verity, that is something, I know everything, that your thoughts on everything. I have read a lot of your stuff. I'm a fan. And, you know, we're all high flyers here in this room today, right? We're all really passionate about our careers, really passionate about creating positive change. But sometimes we can really get sort of addicted with that idea of achievement, and sometimes it can be damaging. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that matter, which I know you do?
I think young women are at an interesting time. We've kind of touched on this, where there's this pressure to be achieving in all areas of your life, whereas I think men might get more pressure to achieve in one area. For women, it's kind of like you have to be everything. And for me, to be successful means I have to be skinny, and I have to be funny, and I have to be fit, and I have to be successful, and I have to make money. So you get addicted to achieving these different things across all these different areas, but you stretch yourself really thin, and then you try and constantly work up to this ideal, which keeps shifting forward and forward and forward and forward. And the more that I was craving to be perfect and to achieve these ideals, the more miserable I was, because I kept falling short of that, because let's face it, it is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It doesn't exist.
So what strategies did you use to sort of shift that for you? We're looking for some advice. You know, what do you do? I think it's something that I see talking to a lot of young women across New Zealand, and a lot of the GirlBoss members are very high performing and really ambitious. And, you know, how do we, you know, it's amazing, and I don't want to put that that's awesome. We want young women to be high performing. We want young women to be ambitious. And how can they do that in the most healthy and positive way?
I think the thing that I realized was that I look back on what has made me happy over a year. And the things that I actually genuinely felt improved by were things like having more coffee dates with my mum and writing for a publication that I'd always wanted to write for, and sort of more holistic moments. And I realized that I thought what made me happy was achieving really highly in traditionally successful ways across a lot of barriers, right? Across a lot of areas. I thought that I wanted to have, I thought I wanted to get promoted. I thought I wanted to move countries. I thought I wanted to be really fit. I thought I wanted to run a marathon. And then I did some of these things. And I look back on them and they actually made me feel really empty. I didn't feel anything. I remember I thought that for some reason I wanted to buy a pair of Louboutins. That was like, that's my goal. That's how I know I've made it. And I saved up and I was like, I'm working for it. And I bought them and I felt nothing. And I looked at them and I was like, this has done nothing to impact on me at all. And then I looked at making an effort to have more coffee with my mum, and I thought about how much happier that's actually made me in a real way, and I had to go and assess which of my achievements actually made me happier, which didn't make me feel anything at all, and which ones made me feel bad, because there are some achievements when you get them they actually make you feel terrible.
Yeah, and I think that's really around redefining what success looks like for you.
Yeah.
And often we say, and that goes into that comparison culture, we say, oh, this is what success should look like. And
Yes.
Even for me as a young entrepreneur, often people say, well, you need more staff, you need a fancy office, and that's what success looks like. And I think just really making sure that you say, actually, no, success for me looks like this, and really showing up to that is super key. Did you have any other questions for Verity?
Oh, yes. We've probably ended up going over a few. Okay, so you've had such an amazing career. You've done so much, but I want to know what's next for you. Like, where do you see your career going?
What amazing. How are you going to keep continuing to lead and change the world? What's the goal? Share it with us. Be unapologetically ambitious, positive. We're here to support you.
I want to write a book, which I'm currently doing, which is very exciting.
Cool. When's it coming out? Are we allowed to say
Don't jinx it.
Awesome. Good job.
I want to write for more international publications, so I started writing for The Guardian, and I want to keep that going.
Yeah. What's your dream publication?
Like, in the world?
Yes.
Man. Probably, like, The New Yorker or The Atlantic.
Oh, Atlantic would be awesome.
I love The Atlantic so much. So writing for internationally. I am producing a cabaret burlesque show, which I want to tour around
That
New
is
Zealand.
so cool.
It's
You're doing that
super
now?
cool. Yeah, I am, yeah. We're in production phase. It's very exciting.
So you're in it? You dancing in the show?
I am singing,
love
yeah.
that. And singing? You can sing. Are you sort of rapping?
I am rapping.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm not singing.
Can you give us like a little demo?
No.
I was wishing I like that.
Invite me back.
Okay.
I'll do it later.
That is so cool. That's
Thanks.
amazing.
Yeah, but that was also part of what made me feel happier, is that being on stage makes me far happier than like making $500. And that is what I realized as well from not stressing out about achievement, is that what makes me happy, what makes me feel successful, making people laugh, like more than anything.
I'm so excited for this. This
I'll
is
invite
so
you.
cool.
You
We're
can come
coming.
along.
We're coming.
Yeah.
We're going to be there.
Get
Front
your
row
Christina
seats.
Aguilera like outfit going
I
on with
love
the
that.
hat.
Oh, I will. I'll
The
go
Moulin
all
Rouge.
out.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
happening, girl. But yeah, that's the
And what else?
book writing
Book
show.
writing. Book writing show.
Yes.
Amazing. And
Sounds so
when's that
exciting.
coming? What's
The show will be, we're aiming for August, so my
Cool, not
birthday month.
awesome?
Yes, and then the book, hopefully I want to get it written, because it's quite long. This year, I want it written and drafted, and first draft, second draft, finished, ready to go and published next year.
Wow.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
It's a
It's
hugely
gonna-
ambitious
yeah.
goal. Now I've said it, I feel like I'll look back
What
on this
type
and
of
be
book
like,
is it? Is it fiction?
it's a
Non-fiction?
memoir. It's a non-fiction
Yeah,
memoir.
I can't wait. I'd love to hear all
Yeah.
about all
I
your
will.
insight into everything. I love that. That's amazing.
I will let you know. Yes.
Okay, so this is quite on topic because we've been talking a lot about feminism. We've talked about how like wellness culture and diets is all kind of part of the patriarchy. So I'm wondering, what challenges has being a woman in your career presented you with?
And how have you overcome them?
Oh my god! Like, oh man, like 2 years to tell you about it. I think the biggest one has probably been people don't still don't tend to take younger, chirpy women seriously and stuff. Like, people don't. So, like, as soon as I sort of moved into the real world, like, left university and stuff, people would say things like to me, "Oh, I didn't realize you were that smart. I thought you were a bit stupid." And, like, that was kind of the constant comment that I got. And I realized that being just kind of happy and bubbly and quite an outgoing person, people think that because you're young and female and outgoing, they put you in this box, which is like you're a bit dumb.
Yeah,
like,
and I get that. I'm a giggler, right? Like, I've been giggling
'cause
this
I
whole
laugh.
show.
Yes, and people think that if you laugh, you're stupid.
Yeah.
And, like, if you giggle or you're being polite, they'll be like, "Oh, well, she's a bit of a bimbo." And I get this all the time. And then people would struggle because they'd meet me, and then I would try and make them laugh or whatever, and they'd think I was stupid. And then I would come out with I would challenge them on their analysis of Brexit and point out why actually Boris Johnson's strategy is a complete nightmare. And then we'd go into this really long political diatribe, and they'd look at me like, "What? Where did that come
That
from?"
does not finish my narrative.
Yeah, it does not complete my narrative. That is not a full stop, no. So I think that, like, being young and female means that people inherently think that I'm a bit thick, and that's been a bit of a struggle. Yeah.
But then it can be kind of like, is it kind of like how have you got around that? Is it just been like, do you just embrace it and then just like kind of get some joy out of like tricking them or like surprising them?
I have a lot of fun. I remember I turned up once to a radio interview, and the dude was like, so there was me and another guy on the panel, and the guy was like to me when I walked in, "Oh, are you the intern here?" And I was like, yeah, I'm just producing out the back. I'm just going to be, "Do you want coffee?" I'm the coffee girl. And then I went out, got him a coffee, came back into the studio, put the coffee down in front of him, and I was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm also the panelist who's on the show with you today." And then I kicked his ass.
I love that. And then he was like willing to do anything.
He was like, yeah. But I found that, like, if you get angry or you get mad, and when someone says something patronizing or demeaning and you get angry with them, that just makes them more angry, and then you escalate the anger.
Yeah.
And if you're about to go on air, that's not good. So if you're funny, or you like play with them, or you like give them some mind games, that's how you get it.
Don't punish yourself, right?
Yeah,
like,
no.
just try and bring some joy to yourself, because you know there's those
Take
challenges.
the piss. You've got a chance. Do it fantastically.
And it gives you funny stories, right?
It does.
Perfect for the book.
No, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, team. So we're nearing the end of the show, which is super sad because we've had the absolute best time.
Amazing.
So
fun.
amazing. Yeah. I know, it could never end. It's like a party. It keeps going on. So what I really want us to do is I really want us to finish by stating what's a word that we're going to bring, and like an intention, a word that we're going to bring in to the next week and to the next year. So what's kind of a really word to kind of really be intentional about? And I think for me, my word for the week is really going to be around being really deliberate in everything that I do. So being very conscious, being very aware, and being really decisive and making some sort of hard decisions and being really deliberate about that.
Okay. My word for the week, I'm going to go with potential, and I just want to give everything my absolute best shot and try to do everything the best I can and to the best of my potential. It's my goal.
I love that. And you've been leaning into your potential today, putting your hand up for doing this. So that's
Look at
awesome.
you,
And you've been
Linton.
amazing.
Carve. I'm going to carve out space instead of being like, "I'll do it later, I'll do it later, do it later, do it later," and never doing it. I'm going to carve out space, put it in my diary, and write it in and say 6:15 to 6:45 on this day, this is happening.
I love that.
And
I
like
love that.
consciously carve in space.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
love that word carve too.
Carve.
It's like so badass.
Yeah,
It's like you've got a
exactly,
sword.
It is like direct. It is, this is happening. It
And
is
it's so like visual
gouging.
carve.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
and
is
I want it to be like that.
That is a forceful word to end on.
Yes.
I
Great
love that.
word.
She is so good. No wonder she's an amazing writer. So I'd like to give a big thank you to these amazing guests, and really thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Please let me know in the comments who you think we should interview next, any comments you have, any questions you think we should discuss next week, and thank you all. And it's been awesome to be with you. This is the Girl Boss Show. Good job.